We've reached the final week of the OHL preseason schedule, which is pretty exciting because a week today, we'll be gearing up for the 2024-25 OHL regular season. The preseason schedule had a bit of a break as players were off at NHL rookie camps, but now that players are starting to return to their junior hockey clubs, we'll get the final preseason games going starting tomorrow between the Sarnia Sting and the Windsor Spitfires. The Barrie Colts, of course, on the road Wednesday night. They're going to play in Owen Sound against the Attack before hosting the Brampton Steelheads on Thursday night. But with that in mind, I wanted to talk about a couple of OHL players who have stood out at NHL camp, starting things off with Easton Cowan of the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's in a very unique situation here. He's kind of done all that he can at the OHL level, and he's pretty much ready for the NHL stage. However, jobs are limited when it comes to the Toronto Maple Leafs with their situation. So Easton Cowan, typically you would think, okay, well, he should be in the American Hockey League with the Toronto Marlies, but because of the agreement between the Canadian Hockey League and the NHL, Easton Cowan is not eligible to go to the Toronto Marlies. So he's in that kind of difficult spot because obviously London Knight fans would love to have him return to junior, but will that help his development? We already saw last year setting records with the London Knights, had that point streak to end the regular season. He had 96 points in just 54 games of action last season. Just goes to show how dominant he was in the OHL. And really, I wouldn't be surprised if he stays with the Toronto Maple Leafs to start the regular season. So the London Knights likely won't see Easton Cowan for the opening few weeks, but I'm almost wondering if this is going to be similar to a situation we saw with Shane Wright and Brandt Clarke. You may remember a couple seasons ago, Shane Wright, he started with the Seattle Kraken and then was sent down to the Coachella Valley Firebirds on an emergency basis, and then kind of went back and forth up until the World Juniors. Brandt Clarke did this a similar thing there with the Los Angeles Kings and the Ontario Reign, where the NHL clubs just using the rules that are in place where you can send a player down on an emergency basis. And we didn't really know until after the World Juniors that Brandt Clarke and Shane Wright were going to return. And I almost wonder if the Toronto Maple Leafs could do a similar situation here with Easton Cowan. I question that, though, because you want the player to get as much playing time as possible. And if you think the player is ready for the National Hockey League, why not give him some of those minutes just to see how he excels? Kind of like with Matthew Poitras with the Boston Bruins last year, where many of us thought he would return to the Guelph Storm, but stayed at the National Hockey League level. So Easton Cowan appears to be that player that's on the bubble, and he's too good, it seems, for junior hockey. He's done all that he can at this level, but there's not enough room for him, it seems, at the National Hockey League level. So keep an eye out on that situation because Easton Cowan, he has the talent. He's a phenomenal hockey player. And if he does return to the London Knights, that's just another weapon as they prepare for another season where they're looking to be one of the top contenders in the OHL's Western Conference. So Easton Cowan, a bright spot for the Toronto Maple Leafs future, but it's right now, where does he play? London or Toronto? Those are the only two options. Now, sticking with the Toronto Maple Leafs, of course, Ben Danford, who was selected at the end of the first round by the Toronto Maple Leafs in the 2024 NHL entry draft. Some saw that as a bit of a surprise, but for Danford, doing a great job on the back end for the Oshawa Generals last season, well deserving of being a first-round pick, but he had looks like a head injury happened in scrimmage with the Toronto Maple Leafs ahead of the Rookie Challenge in Montreal, so he was unable to suit up for the Toronto Maple Leafs for that game, and it's unknown at this time how long that injury will keep him out. So it's a real tough situation. We saw that too with Beckett Seneca of the Anaheim Ducks, also an Oshawa Generals player, suffering an injury before the rookie showcase and not able to play for their respective teams. So that's going to be an interesting storyline going into the regular season. How long until we see Ben Danford and Beckett Seneca back on the ice for the Oshawa Generals? We know the timeline for Seneca is 6 to 8 weeks with that fractured foot, whereas for Danford, no timeline as of yet. We'll see how long he stays with the Toronto Maple Leafs until returning to Oshawa, but it all depends on his health. And if you're an Oshawa Generals fan, it's got to be a little frustrating seeing these injuries start before the regular season even gets underway. Oshawa did have that same problem last year with injuries. that's why they had that slow start before they picked up the momentum and had that charge to the OHL final last year. And Danford and Seneca, both key pieces for this lineup going forward, because Oshawa, another team like London, expected to be a contender this time in the Eastern Conference of the OHL. Now, the final player I wanted to talk about here is Quentin Musty of the Sudbury Wolves. He's at the San Jose Sharks rookie camp. He had a hat trick in his game, a total of 4 points against the Anaheim Ducks. And now the questions are being raised. How long will Quentin Musty stay with the San Jose Sharks? Obviously, the Sharks in the midst of a rebuild. They selected Macklin Celebrini first overall, so everyone's figuring he'll be the future of that Sharks team, but you need to have players to support him going forward. And Quentin Musty could be one of those players in the Sharks' future where he'll help with the depth to try and get the San Jose Sharks back into contender status. But for this upcoming season, with what Quentin Musty's showing, I know it's the preseason and it was just a rookie tournament, but it's very promising for a Sharks team that is in desperate need of offense after last year's disappointing end of the regular season. So for Sudbury Wolves fans, a lot of fans there are wondering, okay, what's this team going to do going forward? Are they going to pick up pieces? Are they going to sell? Well, it all depends. Does Quentin Musty come back? And we already saw what the Kitchener Rangers were able to get for a player like Carson Rakoff. So it's, you know, that there's going to be demand for a player like Quentin Musty if the Sudbury Wolves decide to sell. But will they get Quentin Musty back? That's the big question. Musty trying to leave a good statement here with the San Jose Sharks, and it's proving well so far. Like I said, a hat trick and 4 points in that rookie showcase game against the Anaheim Ducks. Now, going forward with the channel, kind of shifting focus here, I'll be going back into doing interviews with other media members, and it starts this week. We're going to be doing a preview of the Western Conference and the Eastern Conference of the OHL as we enter this final week of the preseason. We'll talk about the contenders and kind of the surprises that we may see coming up this regular season. I'm going to have a broadcaster from both conferences join me here on the channel to get their take, because they're the ones that see the conferences quite a bit. So I thought they'd get their take. So look forward to that here on the channel. Also of note, Thursday night when the Barrie Colts take on the Brampton Steelheads, it'll be the first broadcast on Rogers TV, so that game will be televised. And before, I'll have some downtime, so I'm looking to do a live stream before the game, so stay tuned for that. Probably get underway around 4:45, 5 o'clock. I'll start the live stream. Not sure how long it'll go for, but just thought do something different before we get ready for our first broadcast of the Barrie Colts on Rogers TV. And another thing that will be returning to the channel is the power rankings. So a week today, I'll be releasing the first power rankings for 2024-25. Obviously, it's going to factor in what we're seeing here in the preseason. You can only take, the results of the preseason with a grain of salt, but it's always good to get an early look at the power rankings as we get ready for the regular season. I'm excited. I hope you're excited as well for the upcoming season. We'll also be doing interviews with players from the Barrie Colts and other media members throughout the regular season, and we'll just see where this season takes us with all the twists and turns. So thank you very much for all your support. It's been amazing just seeing how this channel continues to grow. I know there's a pretty big community of junior hockey fans, and this is just one corner of it where we can talk about the OHL and just anticipation of the next champion in 2025. So again, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Talk to you again soon.